8% of your genome is not human. Let that land for a second. Out of the 3 billion letters of DNA that make you, roughly 240 million of them came from viruses that infected your ancestors millions of years ago. The virus broke in, copied itself, and never left. It's still in you. Some of it is still active. And the craziest part, some of it might be keeping you alive.
You probably think of your DNA as a blueprint, a clean instruction manual written in 3 billion letters that you inherited from your parents, who inherited it from theirs, going all the way back to the first cell. And that's mostly true, but it's not the whole truth, because the story of your DNA isn't just a story of inheritance, it's also a story of invasion. Millions of years before you were born, viruses were writing themselves into your family tree. And the deepest part of that story is the strangest part. You are not just a descendant of other humans, you are a descendant of ancient infections. We call them endogenous retroviruses. And the part you're going to find hardest to believe is this: some of them are still doing things inside you right now.
130 million years ago, mammals were small, mostly nocturnal creatures hiding from dinosaurs. The viruses that infected them were retroviruses, and retroviruses work in a strange way. Most viruses hijack a cell to make more copies of themselves. Retroviruses do something more aggressive. They take their own genetic code, reverse it from RNA into DNA, and paste it directly into the host's genome. It becomes part of the cell. Usually that infection is just a hijacking. The cell makes more virus, the cell dies, the infection ends. But every once in a while, a retrovirus did something that should have been impossible. It infected a germline cell, a sperm or an egg. And once that cell's DNA became part of a new embryo, the viral code was passed down. Forever, to every child, to every grandchild, to every generation after that. Over millions of years, this happened thousands of times. Scientists have now identified roughly 98,000 separate pieces of retroviral DNA embedded in the human genome. That's not a typo, 98,000. And that's how we got to 8%. When the Human Genome Project published its first full map of human DNA in 2003, scientists expected to find something like 30,000 active genes. They did. But they also found that less than 2% of the genome actually codes for anything. The other 98% was called junk. We now know that a huge chunk of that 98% is fossilized virus, the remnants of invasions, layered on top of each other like geological strata. Reading your DNA is not just reading your ancestors, it's reading every virus that ever made your ancestors sick. But here's what's fascinating. Most of that viral DNA is silent. It's been broken or shut off by your body over millions of years. Junk code, mostly, a few percent of your genome doing nothing. We used to think that was the whole story. Then, in the year 2000, a French virologist named Thierry Heidmann found something different. There was a gene embedded in a class of these ancient retroviruses that hadn't been silenced. It was active, doing something. And the thing it was doing changed what we knew about human reproduction. The gene is called syncytin. It originally helped retroviruses fuse with the cells they were infecting. That's how the virus got in. But when an ancient ancestor of every mammal on Earth was infected about 25 million years ago, the virus wrote that fusion gene into the host's DNA. And somehow, that broken piece of viral code became the very mechanism that lets a placenta form. Syncytin makes the cells of the uterine wall fuse together into a single layer. That layer is what allows a mother's blood to feed a developing fetus. Without it, no placenta. Without a placenta, a baby cannot be carried to term. Without that gene, you cannot be born. You are alive right now because an infection that happened 25 million years ago got written into your family. Today, syncytin is a major focus of pregnancy research. When it doesn't work, the placenta doesn't form properly. Some researchers are now investigating whether ancient viral remnants are involved in preeclampsia and other pregnancy disorders, diseases that may, in some strange way, be echoes of an infection that happened 25 million years ago. We like to think of evolution as competition, survival of the fittest, red in tooth and claw. But this is evolution as collaboration. A virus and a mammal fusing their fates together so that both could survive. The most important organ in human reproduction was built by a virus. Every mammal on Earth, every cat, every whale, every human who has ever lived was made possible by an infection that happened 25 million years before mammals even existed as we know them. And it's not just ancient history. In 2024, researchers publishing in the journal Nature found that endogenous retroviruses are still being transcribed in healthy human tissue, not just in reproductive organs, in your brain, in your immune system, in cells you wouldn't expect. Some of these ancient viral sequences are still producing RNA, and some are even making proteins. Most of them are doing nothing. Some of them are doing harm. HERV-W, one of the better studied families, has been linked to multiple sclerosis. Other ERVs have been implicated in certain cancers, but some are doing something we don't fully understand yet. They may be regulating nearby genes. They may be part of how your immune system recognizes old threats. They may be helping build the cellular scaffolding of your brain. There's a family called HERV-K, and it's the youngest. Some of its members infected our ancestors after humans had already split from chimpanzees, less than 6 million years ago. So these aren't old viruses. They're not even slightly old. They're recent. They infected the great apes. They infected early humans. And they're still in your genome today. Not fossilized, active. The way scientists date these insertions is by counting the genetic damage that has accumulated in each viral sequence over time. Older ERVs have more mutations, more broken code. HERV-K has less. Some of its genes are still intact enough to be read by the cell. They're not remnants. They're functional. Some endogenous retroviruses, we now know, are doing something almost protective. They produce proteins that block modern retroviruses from entering your cells. They act as a kind of genetic immune system, older infections defending against newer ones. The same strategy 100 million years later. In the late 1990s, researchers discovered that one of these defense proteins, produced by an ancient, broken retrovirus, was actively preventing HIV from infecting certain human cells in the lab. A fossil in your genome, behaving like a modern antiviral drug. We didn't invent gene therapy. We inherited it. We just didn't know it until very recently. Some of these ancient proteins are now being studied as templates for new antiviral drugs. The idea is simple. If a virus from 30 million years ago evolved a way to block cell entry, maybe we can use that same mechanism today. A fossil in your DNA being mined for medicine. The same ancient code that made your placenta is now being investigated as a possible therapy for HIV and other retroviruses. This is not science fiction. This is happening right now in labs around the world. So when you look in the mirror tonight, I want you to think about this. The body you're standing in is not just yours. It is the result of 3 billion years of evolution. It is shaped by your parents, by your ancestors, by random mutation, by natural selection. And it is also shaped by viruses that found a way to never die. They couldn't reproduce any other way, so they wrote themselves into the one place that reproduction could never stop. You. You are not a single thing. You are a coalition, a negotiation between your own cells, your ancestors' cells, and a virus that infected them before you had a name. And it worked. The strategy was so successful that the virus is now more numerous in the human genome than every human who has ever lived, just sitting there, layered into the code, active in places we're only beginning to understand. We used to draw a line between self and other, between you and the invader. That line was always an illusion. The line between you and the invader has been blurred for so long that the invader is now part of what you are. We are not who we thought we were. We never were. So the next time someone tells you that you are fully human, fully your own, the product of nothing but your own lineage, remember this: 8% of you is something else, something older, something that figured out 100 million years before you were born that the only way to live forever was to become someone else. It chose you, and you never even noticed.